Champions Anonymous, episode 317. We are live! We're live! And we're bringing you some action tonight. Tryouts are continuing on the show. We've got a new hopeful joining the mix, but with him are two faces that are still relatively fresh, I guess. Smack, welcome
Fresh
back,
enough.
man. How's it going?
Thank you, thank you. Pretty good, pretty good. Still haven't got that picture up on the wall, so I'm working up to that
Well,
still.
posters are
But
expensive.
yeah, yeah. I think I've made some mental progress towards it though. So
You
um,
waiting on that Hobby
yeah,
Lobby sale to roll around on frames?
yeah, yeah,
Is that
yeah,
what it is?
yeah. Baby steps, baby steps. You have to work the whole thing out in your mind before you actually execute the play. So
Yeah, best laid plans. All right. Adrian, welcome
yeah.
back.
Thank you, thank you.
The fans have responded well to you, by the way. So,
Oh, wow, okay.
yeah, your particular brand of I don't know, personality seems to have you have elicited some followers in the podcast. People seem to
I
like
wouldn't
you.
even know what that is, but I'm very happy to hear that. Thank you very much.
Well, it's like roadies for rock stars, except no one carries your stuff or has sex with you.
I mean, that's fine. I got my wife here, so
All right, good, good.
all covered, all covered.
All right, and then all right, fresh face number one. Uh, you may know him from beating your ass on the Rift. We have Chess Demand. What's up, Chess?
Not much. How's it going?
It's going good, man. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, what rank are you? What roles do you play? What beard products do you use? How do you get your hair so silky? All the shit, all of it.
So I'm a Diamond 4 player, North America. I mainly play AD carry at the moment. I dabble in all roles, platinum. I actually played all roles in solo queue up to a platinum level this season. But other than that, this is my main hobby, so I try to be good at it.
Sweet. You say Diamond 4 ADC?
Yes.
Excellent. You're in. I don't even care what people say. I don't care if everybody hates you. You're in. I've been looking for an ADC forever. We're good. Let's do this. Locking it down. Okay. So awesome. So guys, the show that we're talking about this week, or the show that we're talking about, we're talking about LOLA Puck. Anyway, what we are talking about this week, two discussions. One wasn't planned for the evening, but now it is because it's come up in general chat and it gives me like a rage boner every time this shit happens. And it's just like on repeat every, like, I don't know, 8 months to a year. Somebody brings this up and then somebody else tries to defend it, and then it becomes a thing and it shouldn't be a thing. And I want to talk about it because it's locked screen. So please hear me out. I'm going to do a soapbox save you from yourself moment where it's like I'm trying to tell the little league kid how to hold the bat so he doesn't punch himself in the crotch every time he swings, kind of shit. That's what I feel about lock screen. So we are going to talk about that. And then afterwards, Smack has like a well reasoned paragraph that he wrote that he wants to talk about. So I'm going to let him introduce that right after we go on lock screen. But before I poison the water any further with how I feel about lock screen, I'm going to open the floor to the new guy. How do you feel about lock screen, unbiased third party?
It's not how you play the game. The whole point of the game, or like League of Legends as a whole, is like you're playing the map. Like especially now, you can't solo carry games anymore. You got to pay attention to the map, and when you're focusing on your specifically yourself, you're not putting enough on the screen to get enough information. Like you can't, if you don't have a vision of the champion, you can't put their health bars on the top left. Like I click on health bar, like the champion's icon, so I can see their health bars at all times. So I can see if they have bone plating, stuff like that, important things. Well, if you're playing on lock camera, you're probably not doing that. As well as like you can't see skill shots coming at you. How can you see skill shots coming at you if you're playing locked camera? Like if at least throws a cocoon at you, how are you going to dodge it if it's coming at you from 800 range or whatever it is? it'll already be on top of you by the time you see it. So it's just an inefficient way to play the game.
Okay. So, like, before we even begin to talk about this topic, I want to illustrate in your mind's eye, listener, I want you to picture what bot lane looks like, right? Looks kind of like the shape of an anchor, right? If you're imagining river as the top middle of the anchor, and then it kind of goes out in kind of a U shape at the bottom there, a little parabolic curve, like an anchor, right? And then you're at the bottom middle of the anchor, right? Because that's where you're, let's say you're lane neutral, bottom ass middle of the anchor. If I'm focusing on that, then, and I put that in the dead ass center of the picture, how much of the anchor do you see? Right?
You can get basically all of it.
Yeah. You know, but then if I take that and I put you at the very bottom, because otherwise you're seeing like all the nice graphics that don't make any difference in your gameplay, like what goes on off the map, or like dragonflies around, or like bugs crawl around. You can't even access that part of the map. It looks like forest that's animated or whatever. Like
Pretty
nothing will,
low.
yeah, nothing will ever happen there. So you don't need to see it. Like you don't need to see any of that shit. So move your screen up. Now you see more of the anchor. And right there is also the part of the screen where someone's going to try to kill you from. How many times in League have you said, man, if I had just a second longer, I could have done this? But I died, right? How many times,
Yeah.
just think to yourself, how many times has that ever happened, right? Quite a few, I would imagine, because I say it all the time. It's like, fuck, man, if I would have just one more second, I would have been able to do this, right? Said it last night. Now,
No.
if you get 1 second of warning that Elise is coming, you may be able to dodge that cocoon. You may be ready to, flash it or move away from the repel before you're in I'm screwed range. The reality of the situation is information timely acquired is kind of the name of the game of League of Legends. And if you're limiting the information that you're acquiring for convenience, and the convenience is literally that you don't have to physically control your camera, right? Then it's not a benefit you're trading, you're operating with crutches, right? Like, that's like saying, I want to use a wheelchair so I don't have to walk because it's more convenient to use my arms. Like, you use a wheelchair when you have to, right? It's not, well, I guess with limited exceptions, but like the idea here is that, like, I don't know, if somebody challenged me to like wheelchair basketball, I would play a game, but you have to use the wheelchair for that. But anyway, the analogy stands. Like, the reality here is that, like, using these things as a crutch and then defending the use of these things, like, you're actually just making yourself a worse player. It's a habit that you need to break. The reason that it exists as a default setting on the game is to make moving in general easier for you, so you understand how the game is played before you pull the training wheels off the bike. Right? This is training wheels. Like, that's what they are. And yeah, you can say, it's helpful because really, really don't have to focus on keeping my balance. Like, I can go straight really well. Like, yep, and that's all you can fucking do, and you are limiting yourself. And that's the reality of the situation. So I'm going to go through a couple of the arguments that people posted, and I'm going to summarily debunk those as I did in general chat on our server. So here we go. And by the way, I'm defining lock screen as you hit the lock screen button and your character is in the center. I'm not saying that you can never break that or turn it off or whatever during a game. I am not defining lock screen as you hit the space bar a lot. That's not lock screen. That's using the space bar for its intended purpose, right? It's like using the F keys or doing any of these other things to find people that, shit, I could use the F keys better. I hardly use them. I should use them more, right? But I'm not going to tell you that the F keys have no value. I'm just gonna tell you that yeah, that's something that I could improve, right? If I was saying that F keys, whatever, it's just a marginal thing. It really doesn't matter. Blah blah blah. Like those are excuses not to get better at the game, not actual rationalizations. Just so we're clear. So anyway,
Unless your thumb is just glued to the space, unless
yeah.
unless
Well,
you
and
don't
then
move your thumb the entire
actually,
match.
funny you say that because I said like because everybody kept moving the goalpost on like what is locked camera? And I'm like locked camera is the fucking locked camera setting where your camera doesn't move and you're in the fucking middle. Like that's locked camera. Like they're like, "Well, if I turn off locked camera for like 40% of the game," I'm like that's still way too much. Right? Like having that means that you're laning with lock camera on. That means that you're team fighting with lock camera on. I don't necessarily think that's good, right? Like, so anyway, um, so my response in solo queue to all of these arguments is basically you can argue every niche case where locked camera may be better, except that spacebar is a key and that you can use it. So in those niche situations where you may think lock camera is better and justifies having it on, use spacebar in those situations. That's fine. You can do that. Though I don't really think there are many of those situations. Uh, now, you can argue that I heard this a lot. Well, I lose myself in team fights. Right? Like, I lose myself in team fights. I can't keep track of my character without lock screen being on. What? I mean, like, so, like, just, I don't, I like have a hard time comprehending that one because like I've played without lock screen on for day one. I turned that shit off. I was like, oh, because I've played StarCraft, so I knew camera control. Like you just move like you move shit around the map. You click the mini map to blah blah blah. It's part of the game. Like hotkeys get you places. Camera control is part of the game. You have to do it, right? Like nobody argues that in StarCraft, but anyway. Um, So I had to turn it off because it felt way less natural to me anyway to leave it on, right? But I've never really, like, there's been maybe a handful of times where I have paid attention to something else that's not me so much that I have lost track of my character in a team fight and couldn't find myself instantly. Like, I don't know. Like, that seems like a whole nother problem that has nothing to do with lock screen and everything to do with how you're mentally conceptualizing a team fight. Right? Like, I don't know, you guys weigh in because I don't. This one kind of lost me when I heard the argument. So maybe I'm not comprehending. Like, is there a devil's advocate in the house or?
I've done this.
Okay.
So, and the big thing is like, so playing AD carry specifically, you're a team fight. You're the team fight carry most of the time. You are the DPS, consistent DPS. So, biggest thing is not dying and trying to get damage off as much or getting as much damage as you possibly can. The way I play team fights is I look for threats, or I think of beforehand. These are my threats. These are what I have to watch out for. I've actively looked for those threats without realizing, moving my character, and lost it, and to the point where it's like I can hit spacebar to find it, yes, but sometimes it's too late. But I don't do it nearly as often as I used to. But I do remember doing that back in the day playing the game. But so I do understand that. But that's just you need to practice the game. It's just that that's all there is to it.
Well, and see, to me, it seems like if you're doing that, like what you're describing is I'm clicking at something that I'm looking at, right? And I'm not realizing that I'm moving towards it. Having your camera move along with, like, you're walking into like less vision, because you're moving your vision and your person in a direction that you don't want to go, which is what caused you to be lost in the first place in the team fight,
Yeah.
right? So to me, this isn't a solved problem of like, oh, well, I always know where my character is because I'm right there in the middle. Like the problem is your character isn't where you want them to be, and now your vision isn't either. Which is like now you have two problems, not one problem, right? Because the other end is shit. If I find my character, I'm like, oh shit, just hit spacebar, and there you are, right? Like,
I th- I
this
think people should. Sorry.
go shoot.
Okay. I think people should just like whoever doesn't use spacebar should just really get into the habit of using spacebar because like uh, I mean just using like if you don't know where you walk or what situation you walk into, you're basically already lost. Like you can walk up the river towards some fight towards Scuttle Crab. If the enemy like support comes from the side, you won't see him. Like, and the thing is also I don't know if that's on automatically, but in the options in the in-game interface options you can select champion highlight on camera center, so that when you press spacebar, there's also like a little arrow above you and also a circle around you on the ground, which
Oh
is
my
quite
god, do they
bright.
really have that?
Yeah, it's
They
not
have that. They have
default.
that.
It's not default. It's like on in bot games and like the
Yeah.
Nexus splits and stuff like that where it's hectic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
I
I
mean,
mean,
I
so
honestly,
like, I want to be clear whenever I say this. Like, whenever I talk about lock screen, and I'm gonna get there in a second because this is what I wrote in my post. I list off that 100 things that you can do, right? That you could do better, right? And like buying the wrong items in the wrong order is bad. Not looking at the enemy items is bad. Not checking the minimap is bad. Not pushing for a level 2 advantage and then being ready and in position to use that advantage is bad. Like CSing under tower poorly is bad. And all those things are probably more relevant to your climb than locked screen. Like, I'm not saying unlock your screen and then all of a sudden you'll be diamond. Like, that's not what I'm getting at. It's actually pretty low on the totem pole. And shit, there may be challenger players that play lock screen. I doubt it, but maybe there are, right? That do that. And so I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying that you can't go real fast with training wheels on. I'm saying that you have training wheels on and recognize that, and it's not good. Like, it's just not good, right? So, um, okay. I also heard the argument that I can control my champ better with like lock screen because they don't have to control the camera, so I can spend all my mechanics clicking around my champion. And I don't necessarily think that that is true because the reality is you are just used to controlling your champion by clicking up or clicking down or clicking right or clicking left, right? You still would do the exact same thing if your champion is here in the dead middle or if your champion is over here in the right side of the screen. You just click up, down, left, or right from this point on the screen instead of from the dead ass middle of the screen, right? It is literally just an adjustment that needs to be made, right? It's not that you control your champ better. That's inaccurate. You control your champ in a way that's more comfortable for you, and thus it's not better, it's different, and it's comfortable, right? But that's only in the short term. After you adjust it and you're used to playing without lock screen and playing without being in the center, then it's going to be just as comfortable to move your champion around because I honestly like I don't think about camera control when I'm playing the game. It's second nature to me at that point.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not
I
like
think
I don't even think about that I even moved my mouse to the edge to move my camera a little bit while I'm doing shit. That's like a flick motion that you know.
I think it even makes it worse in like certain situations because like if you only click relative like I mean if you have the mouse like if you have the camera locked screen and then the mouse you have it fairly close around your champion, but for example you get the sin kicked, that's gonna like uh, if you don't have locked screen, your mouse is gonna stay in the same spot on the map, and you can still navigate around that. And I mean, you should see and notice that you're being kicked. If you need the locked camera to notice that you're being listen kicked, I think we have different problems, honestly. And but if listen kicks you and you're still a little bit slow with your reactions, then you might click on some spot which used to be the correct position, but because he kicked you, it's somewhere else. Maybe, honestly, if he kicks you with a dragon wall, you could suddenly path back all the way around into the dragon instead of going, then instantly adjusting, going closer to the wall and attacking over the wall or something, whatever.
Yeah, well, and kind of piggybacking off that, I think not having a lock screen actually can help, at least for me, it helps with hitting skill shots because it seems like it's easier to hit a skill shot when the enemy is moving around and your character is moving around, but your entire screen is like staying still. So like you have everything else like sitting still in the reference frame, and you have 2 points moving around and trying as one point hitting the other point with a skill shot versus having sure your character is like a still point, but the entire
Okay,
reference
I
frame
got you.
is
Hold on,
moving.
hold on. How easy is it to hit an archery target, right? So I put an archery target in a field, right? And
Yep.
you're standing still, and the archery target's standing still, and you take your shot, right? Easiest shot you can do. Now, I make it more difficult. I put the archery target on a conveyor belt, right? Like at a carnival,
Mhm.
okay? Harder shot, but doable. Now, I make the archery target sit still, and I make you run and shoot as you're running sideways, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's much more difficult to aim and conceptualize and hit.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. That's a very good point. I wish I had thought of that when we were having this. Where the hell were you in general chat, Smack? Anyway, so then I heard, oh, Double Lift does it. Double Lift plays lock screen. So first off, he doesn't. Double Lift does not play lock screen. Double Lift liberally uses his space bar in team fights. And I would argue that that's not a good habit of his. Like if you look at like I don't know. I'm not trying to take anything away from Double Lift. He's probably America's best ADC that we've ever produced, arguably. Right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Oh,
without getting into it, arguably guy's the best one that we've produced. Kind of like I can say that like Michael Jordan's a really good basketball player, and people argue with me about like Kobe or whatever. But I'm not. I'm just saying the guy's like in our top tier. Without, I don't have to place him at number 1 or number 4. I don't give a shit. He's like one of our best, right? So,
no.
being as that is an undeniable fact that he's in our top tier, I can still compare him to guys who are better, like Uzi, right? Any of those guys, like Chinese or Korean players, if you watch them play, if you watch them stream, they do not use spacebar hardly at all.
Their cameras are actually I watch a lot of LPLCK. You watch a lot of these players. Their cameras are very rarely centered on themselves at all. Like they're using as much space as possible. Like their champion will be here in this corner. The rest of this space, this is all information for them.
All right, so
Um,
whenever you do that, I appreciate what you're doing because the visual is amazing, but most of the people listen to the show.
that's
so,
fair.
so
That's
like they are in the
fair.
bottom left corner, yeah.
Yes.
So, okay, go on.
So let's say they're using 10% of the screen just for
Right.
them, just for their champion. They have the rest of that 90% for information that's being just fed to them because they know what to do with all this. They see that Syndra stun coming. They see that Malphite ult coming. They don't even have to flash it. They can Gale Force it. They don't look at their own champion. They know what their champion does. They pilot that champion often. They just play around the information that's on their screen. So the more information you take away by centering yourself on the screen, you just lose so much. You're not seeing what's coming at you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would say that like I've also watched an LCS game like where they did the whole like you can see what the LCS player sees like live, right?
Pro
And
view.
yeah, I watched ProView once. And in a game, I don't remember which one. I'm sorry, I can't give you guys like a ooh, it was this game and this guy or whatever. I watched like a replay of a fight, and it was like a 2v2 bot lane fight because that, of course, I'm gonna watch the bot lane, but the 2v2 bot lane fight, and like the ADC leveled during the fight, and it drove me insane because they didn't level up their ability until after the fight was over.
Hmm.
And I'm sitting there
That
going,
bugs the crap out of me.
like shit, you could have like reduced cooldown, additional damage, like level up your shit. Like, all I have to do is hit Alt and then the thing, and then I'm good to go. Like that. And as a support, like I've conditioned myself to do that within instance, right? And
Yeah.
I went, holy shit, that guy's in the LCS, and he played that entire team fight without leveling up his fucking ability, right?
Yeah.
Now, if I told you, listeners, like stop clicking your ability to level them up, use a hotkey, somebody would come back at me and say, this LCS ADC didn't do it. Like it's a good idea. And I'm going to be like, objectively, that's bad. Like just because an LCS player did it doesn't mean it's good. And it doesn't mean it's right. And it doesn't mean that you should then do the same thing. Like, use my grandma's logic and be like, if an LCS player jumped off a bridge, it's the same shit. Like, just, ugh. Anyway, um, yeah. So, like I said, lock screen in the grand scheme of things is not even like the biggest brick in your skill pyramid. You know what I mean? Like if I took all the skills it takes to be good at the game, like orb walking would be a huge brick. Like you need to be able to attack, move, click, and that kind of shit. Like manage your auto attacks, pilot your champion, look at the mini map. These are all big fucking bricks, right? Like that's something that's a foundation that skills are built on. Unlock your camera is a brick. And I would say it's a significant one if you want to get high.
Yeah.
But like you can get through gold, you can get to plat, like locked camera. But
Yeah.
rip off that band-aid early. Because the more fundamentals that you build on that brick, the more difficult it is to pull out when you've put weight on top of it. Right? Like just don't waste the effort putting time into something that you're going to later have to remove.
Yeah.
Doesn't make fucking sense. So,
Especially also if your champion is uh if the skill ceiling on your champion is greatly maximized by taking lock screen off. Like as an Echo player, like Echo's W stun cast beyond if you're centered on Echo, like there are places you can cast your W that you will not see. So like if you have lock screen on, you're taking away not just like some vision, but you're taking away like ability range. Also his like clone, keeping track of his clone. You can't see it. It's off screen if you've been like running in a line or running around other than around in the circle. So like I feel like also certain champions will benefit. There are certain champions that can benefit a lot. All of them can, but also certain ones that will really benefit a lot to taking lock screen off.
well, and then the other thing I would say is like
Because
people talk about this concept of like lock screen is some kind of like a circle of vision around you, and it's not because the game is played in a rectangle. So there's going to be points where if they come from like directly above you, they're much closer to you than they would be if they came from like the top left corner of your screen. Right? And that's a good amount of distance that you are just shorting yourself there. Right? So like if I was a player that's just playing the game and we're doing shit and whatever, I'm not going to walk, that close 800 units from an unwarded bush because I don't know what the hell's on the other side of it, right? When you're playing lock screen, you're always 800 units from an unwarded bush. Is the functional equivalent of what I'm talking about. You're just moving the bush.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I don't want to beat him up because like I don't. This is just like there is no two sides to this argument. It's just objectively bad, right? And I don't want to defend it or say yeah it's okay because like some people are like I played the game more passively, and I'm like more passively just means you're missing opportunities. It's not more passively is not a play style. well, I heard that Jensen plays more passively or Froggen does. And like, okay, that's more passively for a pro. You're talking about playing at a 9.9 on the aggression scale instead of a 10.5, right? Like, you're passively by comparison. In the same way that you can have a, like, less lethal lion. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean I'm gonna like let him into my kid's daycare. It does mean that, you know, I may not flinch whenever I throw him meat or something. You know, I don't know how you deal with lions, but this analogy is falling apart. But the fact of the matter is, like, this is this is something that, like, just give up on this point because it's not good for you guys. Like, it's really not, and that's what probably, like, hits me the hardest because it's like been trying to build a community on getting better at the game and playing things better, right? This is bad. Don't do this. Okay,
Uh, one
Schmack.
one small last thing
Yeah, go. Go ahead.
about that. Um, what you said about getting better, I think that's a huge part as well. It's not only about like how much you can see for yourself and like what you see around you. That's a huge part, obviously. But another big thing is also, I mean, if you're locked camera, then you prohibit yourself from using the F keys, and like you should. I mean, I don't use them often enough. Nobody, I don't think even pros do it, honestly. Probably. But the main thing is like you should still actively try to look around, and also if you're walking somewhere, try to look at the fight. You can just see watch mid lane for like while you're walking to lane. If you're walking to lane, you don't have anything to do. If you're tapping out of the game, well, I hope you're not playing ranked. You should be playing ranked. And if you are in ranked, then you should also not be watching yourself walk to lane. You know that walk animation. Just watch other lanes, see how they play. Look at the, I don't know, looks against Zed and see how they're doing. Is the looks bad? Is she getting outplayed? If yes, maybe you can help her. If not, or if yes, maybe then you need to do more. I don't know, but you can get so much information about the other players, about what's happening in the game around you. And I think that's the biggest thing. In the past 3 weeks, I climbed from gold 2 to plat 2, Sarah support, and like the thing I do more now, and need to do more, is like the roaming and like looking around, like even earlier going out there, just impacting mid lane, impacting the jungle. But that doesn't happen if you have locked screen. If you have locked screen, you're on your lane. You're not doing anything.
Right. And I
That's
mean,
my part.
like I said, I don't think that we have that many people who play with purely lock screen. People are talking about defaulting to lock screen and then looking, like, dragging off to look elsewhere. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to like bastardize people's arguments or like make them out to be something that they're not or whatever. Because there was a lot of, oh no, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this other activity that's also not great, but, maybe less egregious. Like, that's fine. What I'm saying is break the habit and develop camera control. It will help
Yeah.
you. Like, I don't care. It will help you. Okay. Smack. The floor,
Ah,
it is yours. So, your topic today.
yeah. So today, I thought it'd be kind of cool to talk about um, basically like having a rough start to a season, like like I had a significantly rough start to season, and just like simple, like small things to kind of turn around a season. It can be done. Um, uh, yeah, so like kind of just like small little like methods or like intentional things that you can do um, to kind of like reset your mental in a way, or
So, you're
just
talking
play
about
like with
like slump recovery or
kind of, yeah, like instead of just like kind of autopiloting on throughout lots of games, because that's kind of how I started this season. Was like, oh, I'm an Echo One trick. I'll pick up from last season, just play, and I'll automatically just climb because I play nothing but this forever and just spam games. Um, and after like 60 or 70 games, I was at like a 40% win rate, losing my mind. So it, you know, so small ways to like kind of turn that around, maybe some things to focus um,
All right.
on
So,
like
real
game to
quick,
game.
before you go
Yeah.
any further, hey, listeners, thank you for your support. We really appreciate you. And this segment is brought to you by Brian Allen Hater. Thanks, Brian. You're a good guy. Handsome as shit. Probably the envy of all your friends. So, this one's for you, buddy. Thanks for supporting the podcast. That's our Patreon shout out this week. All right, go on.
Hey, there we go.
Thanks, Brian.
Um, yeah. So, so some examples to get more practical.
All right.
So I have found for me that, and for this, it's win or lose, taking like a 5 minute break between every single game for me has helped.
Win or lose, right?
Win or, yeah. And I think that's
Interesting.
kind of that was interesting for me. Yeah. Win or lose.
Why? Like, so my thought is like, I understand loss. You don't want to like ride out negative feelings into your next game and blah, blah, blah. So I get that. But like,
Right.
wouldn't it kind of be beneficial to ride the high of victory into your next game? I mean, I understand there are those victories that like I feel like shit about and we still won, right? Like
Right.
maybe that's not something you want to bring into your next game. Where are you at on this? So I understand where we're coming
Yeah. So everything you said, yes. But then for me, I have found that even a win that's felt really good, you stomped, you killed it, you felt like you played well, maybe you could improve some things, maybe you feel like you played a perfect game, you didn't, so maybe think of some things you can improve. But even just taking a 5 minute break to, uh, how would you describe it? Like for me, slowing down, even if like I feel great and like riding the high into the next game, um, for me, it helps to actually slow down, even if I've won, to slow down and kind of reset and almost like reset the pace of your brain so that you can like slow down, stop, and then go into the next one and focus again. Because sometimes for me, if I even if I've won one, I'm feeling good. It was, stomping. I hard carried. Let's say I was like doing all these things, spamming, going super hard. Game ends. Yeah, it was a great game. Feel great. Queue up again. Sometimes into the next game, early game is like almost inherently slower than mid late game when you have low cooldowns, you're moving faster, all this type stuff. Sometimes I'll keep uh, that high
Okay.
speed mentality and high speed energy into a like an
So
early
basically,
game.
you're gonna come in hot whenever you're not there yet.
Yeah,
Okay.
whenever
All right.
nothing about the game is hot and you're hot,
Yeah.
so you're trying to force things and you're playing like just too. I don't want to say like high energy, but you're strung out too much, and you need to just like take a step back and start over the process and
Okay.
just be
I mean,
more methodical.
that's fair. So like activities wise, like a 5 minute break. Like I've heard, yeah, I've heard people say this before, and they're like, oh, exercise, or oh,
Mhm.
whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, dude, if we exercised, we wouldn't be playing League of Legends. Right? Like, sure, I could go exercise and also learn how to play the classical piano and like fuck, dude, I'm playing League. Like this is what I'm here to do. So,
Become a Renaissance man.
right, go paint paint a self-portrait and come back. And like, all right, I get that if I'm like seriously pissed off to the point that I'm like this game has infuriated me, whatever. But like, I never even considered the idea of like mental resetting on a win, right? And I mean, I guess that makes sense if what you're talking about is like consistent performance, right? Because you're gonna play like more evenly across the board. Like Josh, what are some things that you would do to like reset mentally after, or or weigh in on the good beat thing? Like is that something you've ever done?
Yeah, actually what he was saying was being fed on AD and then going from like, oh, I'm three-shotting people to then playing at level 1. You're like, this is different. I gotta cool down a little bit. So like taking a small break, like especially after those hard ones, is very nice. Just go get a cup of water. I like to go look for my cats, make sure they're alive. Um,
Is
and
responsible
then
cat ownership, Josh. I'm really proud of you.
Get them some
and then
love.
for the losses, it's just yeah, you gotta reset because most of the time, honestly, it's because I don't want those teammates. I'm gonna take a minute so they can queue
And
up,
see,
get in their
that's
game,
a
and then
good point right there.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
like the higher you
That's
get
good.
up on the ladder, the more likely you're gonna hit the same fucking people again.
it's actually like annoying how many times like I played a game, me and my duo. It was like 3 weeks ago. Had a cast and got really mad at us because like we weren't having the best game. Whatever. Last week we run into the same guy. Immediately calls out in champ select saying we're on his int list. Picks singed, plays the game out, like runs it down. It's like, how do you remember this? I don't
Right, right.
understand it. But yeah, no, it is a big deal like taking a break in between games, especially in the losses, because each game is independent of itself. And if you're going into a game upset or like mad about that last loss, which I do, I like this game. I played this game for almost 10 years, or probably 10 years now. I like it. I get passionate about it. I get mad at it. So I'm gonna take a break if I get mad at it. Just like for 5 minutes. Even on the bad days where it's like, okay, I'm gonna take a couple day break. And then when I come back, I almost always play better when I come back after like a day break, 2 days break. It's
Mm.
crazy how big of a difference it is.
Like, so I had one guy who said, "Oh yeah, we like to, I'll work out or I'll do push-ups or like," and then one guy's like, "Yeah, I'll just like jack off. Gives me a mental reset." And I'm like, "How many games do you play a day? Like, how is that
Oh
fucking
my gosh.
possible? You're gonna be shooting dust by like game 7. You know, like how much lotion do you go through a season? Like, I have so many questions that like, but I can see that would work, right? Like, I'd be in a better mood. Like, all right, wash our hands and move on to the next game. Let's go, right? Like, but at the
Always
same
say
time,
wash
like,
your hands before they move on.
yeah. So I mean, but if you have an activity that like that will help you mentally reset, say go for it, man. Because I mean, realistically, it's about you know hitting each game like a fresh new experience. That being said, one thing I will talk about, you touched on, if you have a duo and you're bringing a duo into the game, I am perfectly fine with telling my duo, hey, you're in shit headspace right now. We should probably like take a 5 or 10 and come back. Or if there's somebody who's like real subject to toxicity or like, will like get riled and start making bad decisions, then I'm like, maybe we just call it for the evening
Yeah.
and we'll come back. Right? To like when you're, because like she used to play with Ponderous and he would get like nerd rage after a couple of games and he'd spin out. And he's the kind of guy that's like, whatever. I'm good enough to compensate for the fact that I'm not playing at 100% because me at 90% is still better than these fuckers. And I'm like, but you're 10% shittier than you normally are. Just don't go in half cocked. It's a bad idea. Like, take a fucking break. So if that's you, understand that, yeah, man, anything that you do that lowers you from your 100% mark is something that you don't need to do if you're taking climbing seriously, right? If you have a I don't give a fuck where I end up on the ladder mentality, fine. Like, do whatever you want to do, right? Ranked is just a number. But if you're playing to like see, okay, when I played to see how high I could climb, I got up to my promos 2D2 and lost them. And that was when D5 was a thing, right? So I did D5, D4, D3, 100 LP, didn't make it into D2, right? And that was me deciding I wanted to see how high I could get, not at day 1 of the season, but like well through it. So I'm not 100% convinced I peaked there. I just peaked there given the time frame that I put myself in, right? That being said, the next year I was like D4 or D3, and then like I think I ended last season like plat because children and various other things, and I just honestly haven't put the effort into the game to key out like I used to. But you know, I didn't care, right? Like it wasn't a priority for me because I got there, I did it. Like, I know I could do it again. Cool, right? Something that I kind of like put some effort into, but never really committed to. And if that's you, fine. Doesn't matter if you lose a game here or there, right? You're not trying to set a record. But that would not have been me 3 years ago when I was trying to like hit a plateau or peak and see just how good I actually am at this game. If that's what you're doing, like if you're min maxing to try to like hit your personal best you got to go in fully cocked every single time. Every time. And so this is a lot about that. There was a time that I went on. I mean, shit. If you've listened to the podcast for long enough, you'll know that at the beginning of literally every season, my placements are exactly what Smack is describing, right? Like, I will go, like, the fucking season that they did the ranked reset, I could fucking drive to Riot and burn that place to the ground that season. Because, like, Josh, this is probably entertaining for you because you were around the same area that I was at then. But like, I ended that season like D3, right? And then
Yeah.
it was a season that they had like role locked solo queue and like everybody abused the shit out of it and like they would go support and then lane swap to whatever they were at to get a lower elo support and then go to their actual role, and it was totally abusable, and solo queue ranks were completely fucked up. Do you remember the season I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
it was bad.
Yeah. So I did my placements, and I went like 2-8 in my placements, like just horrible. And like I had of those placement games, like a ton of just unwinnable garbage games, and I got put at like plat one, right? And I was like, all right, whatever, I'm plat one. And I'll just get back to diamond like tomorrow. It'll be fine. Big deal. And then they're like, hey, we screwed up ranked, so we need to reseed everybody that is diamond or above. Right? And I'm like, oh, okay, that doesn't affect me because I'm plat one. And then I got reseeded for being diamond or above because I think my MMR was high enough to cause me to be reseeded. However, when I reseeded, they reseeded me off of my plat 1 rank. So I went 2-8 again. And then I'm now like plat 4 or plat 3. And as a support, when you go from diamond 3 to plat 3, you're in a different world. You know, a world that I suck at, by the way, because I expect people to do certain things that don't happen and then I die for it. But anyway, long and short of it is, every season has been like this for me where I start in a pit, I have to climb the fuck out of it. And mentally it's exhausting. So I can speak to a lot of the things that Smack is talking about here, right? And aside from like the game to game reset, understand that like any given game, any one game in your season does not matter. That would be my tip to you to come back from a ranked reset, right? How many games, just a round table estimate, how many games did you guys play last season of ranked?
Ugh.
Yeah.
Probably like 500.
Cool. 500.
Wait
That's
a sec.
Adrian's looking it up.
Me like 200, I would guess. Probably a little bit less, 150, 200.
All right.
Yeah,
Schmack, where are
probably
you
like
at in that range?
250.
All right. So,
I would guess, yeah, maybe 253.
cool. So in any given season, if you're really going to set a rank, you need to play somewhere around 2, 3, 400 games minimum. Like if you're really going to try to make a hard push, unless you're just like, I'm on a Smurf account. Let's see how few games it takes to get me to diamond. Teehee. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you on your main account trying to peak. If you're going to do that, you're going to play a lot of games. That's just how that's going to pan out. I'm not saying you have to play like 2,000 games in a season or anything, but if you're going to play, you're going to play a lot of games. So understand that any game can be completely screwed by somebody inting. Any game can be completely screwed by somebody checking out and AFKing on you. Any any single game can be screwed by poor play of somebody, like hyper feeding. All of these things can make you lose any game, even games that you play well. So, any individual game of League of Legends doesn't matter, right? Like if I asked you, name a game you played 2 months ago, can you remember a single one that you played in ranked 2 months ago? Like, no, you can't. That's dead. It's gone. It's no longer in your memory. And if it doesn't bother you now, then it really shouldn't bother you in the moment because it is just one road bump in a long ass journey, right? It's a step in the marathon, right? So,
Right.
Yes,
like, put
but
that game in context with how many games you're going to have to play to achieve whatever rank that you're going to get, and it's just one. Or if you're on a losing streak, it's just five. I mean, fuck, I went on a like 17 game lose streak in rank, and then I went on like a 20 game win streak. Like, that shit happens. Just be happy when you're on win streaks and don't beat yourself up over lose streaks, right? But the focus needs to be on improvement, not on record. Because if you're improving, your record will go up over time. But you can't necessarily force an outcome in any individual game. Some games are going to be out of your reach to win.
and I think that's a good point. Um, while yes, you shouldn't care about the single games, specifically like especially about losses. You shouldn't care about those every single game. That shouldn't affect you too much. Um, I mean, I think everybody by now knows like I think it's 30-40-30 rule, where it's like 30% of the games you lose, 30% of the games you win, and 40% you can decide. But that still doesn't mean like that still means you need to take care of every single game. You shouldn't go into a game autopiloted or tilted or something like that. Like for me
Yeah.
personally, two losses is fine. Three losses, I'm 99% out because like sometimes I don't know, it's superstition. I don't care, but sometimes there are just bad days. Sometimes there are just bad days where either you play bad or your team is bad. Maybe it's both. I don't know. But like you still need to take care that you are on your game and like trying to actually win 100% of those 40%. Because if you just go up and queue again instantly with the same mentality from the last game, be it good or be it bad, it can both be harmful. Let's say it that way.
No, I agree with that entirely. I mean, I'm so do not listeners misinterpret what I just said into like you don't have to care about it in the games, man. It's just whatever. Fuck it. Like shoes up or feet up, shoes off, drink a cocktail. Fuck it. No, I'm saying try hard, right? But don't get caught up in end result. Is my point. Even if it's 3 or 4 games in a row, because 3, 4, 5 games, if you play 250, or 300, 400, 500 games, that's just one out of 100. You're at a 1%, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna lose
But
games. It's just how the game works.
Yep.
When you reach like what people call hard stuck, which is a dumb term. But like when you reach your rank, you're gonna find yourself at about a 50% win rate. You lose half your games. So why get upset over one loss when you've lost 100 more?
Hmm.
You've won 100 games, but he's got to find what works for you, like a good way to reset. Realize like, oh, I'm on a loss streak is coming. Today's just not that. I'm gonna go outside for a little while. I'm not playing today.
Yeah.
They figure it out.
And see, like, here's another thing that I will tell you. Like, Adrian was talking about this, and I think he has a good point. Like, if you say, okay, I've lost once, I'll keep playing. I've lost twice. This is now my hard cutoff for playing ranked. I don't want to lose more than two. I'll stop for the day. We'll do a mental reset, and we'll come back tomorrow. Fine. Like, that's a good rule, right? Like, my buddy Sam, who we started a podcast with a long time ago, that was his rule. Like if I lose 2 games, I'm done with ranked. Like I don't care if I win 15 games and then I lose 2. Like they don't have to be in a row. I'm just quitting when I lose 2 games. Like all right, cool. That was an anti-tilt mechanism. Like he made himself a hard and fast stopgap, right? I'm cool with that. Um, but what I would say is like I've had times whenever like I'm on a hard loss streak, I play one game, and if I lost it, I'm like, nope, loss streak continues. That's already put me in a bad mood because of the background of the loss streak. I'm not doing this shit again. So, time to figure out. And then the other end of it is, if you are on a 5 to 7 game loss streak, time to start looking at what you're doing. Because you may have developed a bad habit that you're not really focusing on or aware of that you could fix and turn this shit around. But like you're busy being mad at other people, so you're not looking at what it is you are doing, right? Like the reality is, if you're on a 5 to 7 game loss streak, you've probably done something wrong at some point in those games that you could do better that may have turned around at least one of them, right? So
Yeah.
this is probably a good moment for stop playing ranked, start looking at the games that you just played, and be a student of your own performance and see where you need to improve. Right? Like
Yeah.
that should be a pretty red flag, right?
You're
Like
not always gonna be like getting team gapped. There
right.
you will be the problem. Like especially if you find yourself climbing consistently, you'll get to a point where it's like top. I think top lane is the biggest example. You're playing top lane, you're having a good time, you're silver, you get to gold, you get to plat. Oh wow, this guy's just screwing me. I'm getting screwed every single game now because they know how to do wave management. That's not something that exists in other elos. So like you'll find yourself like that. There's a whole new skill you have to learn, and you don't figure that out until you get hit by it like 10 times in a row, and you might think to yourself, "Well, my jungle didn't gank me. Why would he go up there? It's not his fault. Your wave got screwed over because you don't know how to properly manage it. There's so many smaller things you learn, especially when you're climbing. You just gotta. So if you do go, like I said, if you do go on those loss streaks, look at yourself, see if you could do any better. You can learn from a loss no matter what.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. And usually those, because I was like, I'm a player that tends to go on like streaks, whether win or loss or whatever. Um, and just speaking from my own experience, like if you note that you like tend to go on streaks, um, that's specifically why this season or the second like part of the season I've tried to focus on consistency because streaks sometimes I think could tell you that like you might have inconsistent play. Like if you go on like big loss streaks and then big win streaks, some of that's just statistically going to happen. But if those streaks happen a lot, you might try and specifically in your replays or just when looking at your own play or when you're playing, um, look at things that you can do to just become more consistent in your play. And again, it could be just taking the 5 minute breaks. It could be for me like focusing on the early game specifically, like the first 15 minutes of the game. Well, every game has a laning phase. Play that phase and know what you're going to do. Focus on consistency there. I think if you tend to go on streaks, something to look for might be like in
Pants?
whatever way it turns up, consistency in your play to look for, or inconsistency. You should probably say.
Yeah, or pants.
I think
You
I
know,
think
if you're
consistency.
going on streaks a lot, you should probably wear more pants.
I think consistency is.
Sorry, I've been like trying to figure out a way to subtly make that joke since you started, because you were like, yeah, I'm a player who just likes to go on streaks all the time. You know, that's what I do. Is I'm just streaking. I'm like down the quad. Like
Yep.
I'm just thinking of like all these things. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna interrupt him. I'm gonna wait till my moment.
Haven't been banned yet.
They haven't caught me yet. I'm a menace to the campus. Anyway, um, sorry, Adrian, you're saying. Go on.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, right, streaks. Or streaking. I think consistency really helps you with, or really helps with, like, if you know what you're doing. For, like, also, that's a big part that Blake often hit on, is like the story about like teaching himself to always work at 2:30. Like, uh, especially like if you take those extra 5 minutes to reset between the games, then once again think about what is your early game plan. Like, what do you actually want to do? I mean, for lane, it's always a little bit difficult, I would say. I mean, as like mid lane or support, you can actually basically anybody you can think of when to ward, and then also use champion select and loading screen to think of like where's the enemy gonna start, where are they gonna go, from where might they come, and also like watching a good thing that I've started.
So what
Well, I
you're
think it's a
saying,
good thing.
if I could
Yeah,
nutshell this, and then you can spin out,
yeah,
develop a plan going into the
yes,
game.
yes, 100%,
Okay,
100%. Like
that's good.
one
Yeah.
one plan, one thing that I always try to check nowadays is uh, I try to always look for which side leash, because honestly, very few people fake leash in solo queue. If they do, they even like not very often do it with using spells, and like oftentimes that alone can tell you so much about like where's the jungle gonna be very soon, where they're gonna go to. Another plan is which makes it really easy. I think, for example, is like Iron Jungle. Uh, you can up until to a certain elo. I always had the plan. I just do my buff. I do my second camp. I mark them. I go over there. I take his buff because I worked on there, so I know he didn't come over yet, and like that's the plan that I had, and I mean as long as that plan works, it will screw over the enemy, and you wouldn't even have to think about what you're gonna do. You can then look at the map, look at other stuff, and think about what you want to do next. But like I have an idea for the first few minutes, I think, and try to be consistent in that, because like just laning, just hitting the creeps without thinking about it, that can lead to bad habits.
All right, I'm gonna piggyback on that, and then we'll probably wrap up with final thoughts on this because we're at an hour already, so we did well. Anyway, uh, autopilot off. It's not just the name of a punk band. It's something that's going to be good for you in improving your consistency and stopping those slumps, right? So I find that most of the time, whenever I lose and I'm just going in, I'm just playing the game. I'm not really thinking about what I'm doing. I'm just snapping on opportunity that I'm seeing in the moment, and I'm like, and then it either works or it doesn't. But I'm not focusing on improving any set skill. So the way that you fight and turn off the autopilot, so you're not just turning off your brain and just playing the game with essentially muscle memory, is go in with a goal and an elected plan of a skill that you're going to build. Adrian talked about what I said about when I was trying to teach myself to ward consistently to avoid that first jungle gank where I go at 2:30 because I'm like, hey, I'm going to do this at 2:30. Jungler's going to either be here between 2:30 and 3:30. I need to have that ward in the bush ready to go, so I'm aware, right? And then once I've got that and it's second nature, I move on to a different skill and set that as a playable goal for the next game. And then or not the next game, the next several games, like the next 5, 10 games, until it's something that is just ingrained in me. And then I look back and I say, hey, am I still warding at 230? Because if I'm not, I need to go do that a couple of times to get back in the mental habit, right? And so set these like short-term attainable goals that is something that you intend to do. Like the other day, I was like, you know what? I need to deep ward more. Because I was watching a game and I went, man, there are times that the wave is frozen. I have the opportunity to roam, but there's nothing going down mid, and I know the jungler is top. I need to deep ward his jungle. Right? Like, it gives my jungler a bunch of relevant information. It's going to make this guy's ganks fizzle because he's less mysterious. Top lane can play more aggressive if he knows where the jungler is. All sorts of shit. Like, doors just open in ways that you don't even comprehend when you do your job a little better. Right? So, this was something that I focused on over like 2 or 3 games. From like, hey, my objective this game is going to be make sure I get out that deep vision when it's safe. Right? And it's not like, hey, I'm gonna blindly wander into their jungle like, a sheep into a jungle and just get mauled.
No.
Like that's not that analogy. I mean, my analogies have been shit today, man. But the point still stands. Like, don't just like throw an apple in your mouth and hop on the spit, and maybe it works out, or maybe you're free roasting. I don't know. But the reality of the situation is like set yourself goals, make them attainable, and focus on those things, and then you won't go on autopilot because you'll be thinking about a skill to improve. Right?
Yeah.
Jess, what you got? You got anything to add on this?
No, you should never autopilot. It's the more you autopilot, it's like it's the biggest thing that you can do. And like I know my duo does this a lot. He'll say that he's just autopiloting on these games, and I know when he says that, I gotta stop playing. Because you're not thinking properly. You're not doing the things like not no two games are the same. This jungler could path differently than this jungler. This one does 3 camp scuttle gank. This one does 2 camp scuttle or 2 camps into a gank. Like there's so many different possibilities. So autopiloting is literally just playing to lose or like putting yourself at a deficit like early. If your brain's not thinking properly, you should just not be playing rank for the day. If you want to play League, go play
Yeah.
normals, go play ARAMs, have fun. It's still a game at the end of the day. Just don't do it in my games, in my ranked games.
Yeah, right. I think that's fair. So, okay, last thing that I'm going to add to this is like turn off chat. Honestly, I think it's better. Like I've
Yes.
played the game with team chat, I've played the game with all chat, I've played the game without both of those. I just turned them off in my menus.
Even team chat,
Mhm.
I have all chat turned off because it's useless. It's actually
Mhm.
useless.
It is.
There's no point for it. I do have team chat because sometimes you do. I am not the nicest person, but like if a teammate does the something nice, I'll be like, or something good, like I get a TP. Like getting TP's bot lane is like something fantastic that
Yeah,
never
like
happens. It's great, and I'll say,
swing. Yeah.
good job, you did great. I appreciate that. And sometimes they'll say, no problem. I'm like that's a morale boost right there. But no, a lot of times it's more like go eat shit.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
usually
Well,
that's
like I
usually
mean,
what
I'll
you
just
get.
say like if I ever played jungle, then I would definitely have all the chat turned off because nothing good is going to come your way,
That's
no
just
matter
not worth
what.
it.
Yeah, it's just not worth it. Support is a lot the same because if I get like a mouth breathing, pain eating dipshit ADC and nothing happens in lane because this guy has no concept of when to go in or when not to and he won't follow and we die, like, okay, like I get blamed for that somehow because that's just the way the game works, I guess. But shit, like, realistically speaking, I've gotten to the point in the game where I'm like, I would rather just focus on what it is I'm doing. I'm doing, so I'm talking to somebody on the headset anyway. There's not going to be a lot of relevant information that doesn't come through pings that gets typed in. Like, typed in is literally an emotional support cue, right? Is like that's what team chat feels like. Either I'm emotionally massaging somebody or trying to prevent them from giving me unwanted touches, right? And none of this is anything that I want to opt into, right? Like, I don't care. Like, there was a time period where I'm like, I'll be everybody's cheerleader. Like, go teams, supports rule. Like that. I don't think that actually wins me any more games. I don't being positive. I don't think it wins me any more games because if somebody's on the edge of going insane, the first thing that happens, regardless of whether you were super positive all game, they're gonna go off the edge, right? I would say it's probably better just to focus on your gameplay than trying to make your teammates not mentally implode. Because I don't think typing does it. And
No, it doesn't do anything.
honestly, I think it backfires as much as it helps. Because like people will think you're being a sarcastic dick. I've had that happen where I'm like, "Hey man, good job. Like we got something out of that gank. Like sucks that you died, but you know, it was 2 for 1. Fuck you, guy." And I'm like, "What? Good job though. Like, really? Yeah. All right, Dick. Like, oh, I'm sorry. I don't. What happened?" But I'd rather like just not engage it altogether
Yeah.
because I feel like it's
It
just
also
cleaner.
encourages them to type. Like even if you're
Right.
trying to be positive and whatever, like best possible case scenario, they type back, "Aw, shucks. Golly gee, thank you so much. I'm so encouraged." And like by typing, they're not focusing on the game. Like best case scenario, they're
Okay.
distracted from the game.
Worst case scenario, the guy who you're complimenting that another guy is pissed off at is gonna jump over the top of you and be like, "Oh yeah, that was a good play because the piece of shit hadn't come top in a fucking 100 years, dumb fucking piece of shit asshole." Like, and I'm like, "Oh man, I was trying to be positive and this spun out." Like that's I don't know, man. To me, like engaging anybody at this game that you didn't bring into it, I
Yeah.
would prefer to think that my team is bots aside from the people that I bring in.
There's
So
only one benefit to having chat on for your team is getting your jungler to come bot by saying no sums bot when you know damn well one of them has flash and you don't remember which.
Wow.
so
Okay, didn't expect
so
that one.
I'll tell you this, like Adrian had the best advice ever, and that's don't ping the Baron, ping near the Baron so nobody knows who pinged it if it goes wrong. I'm like, that's the best thing I've fucking ever heard. But
Yeah, it wasn't my call.
I don't know, man. That guy, fucking moron or something. Like you're just like, I don't know. You have plausible deniability. It's brilliant. So, thank you guys for listening to the podcast. We appreciate it. If there's something you guys would like us to talk about, we have that podcast feedback channel. We're always looking for topics. Hell, if you feel like we need to go deeper into this, fine. I feel like we've kind of like laid the groundwork, but hey, if you need mental health counseling, we will give you some tips to get you through, right? Because solo queue, fuck, man. But that being said, if you guys want us to talk about anything, lane control, wave control, appropriate aggression, trading stance, dragon control, jungle warding, I don't give a shit. Tell me what you want. We will go ahead and do that. Please give us feedback on these guys, how you think they did. I'm sure they would love to hear it. I gave Adrian some of your feedback. He seemed, I don't know.
Very happy.
There you go. Okay. So, yeah, these guys, they love hearing stuff, especially about them. So let them know how they're doing in the chat. That would be awesome. Give us topics you want to talk about. Pay us money. All of these things, useful, right? But seriously, though, if you guys want to do another challenge, keep in mind my reward is open. So $100. Anybody donates to the podcast, pick a champion. I'll play it in ranked. I am not doing 40 games again. That was way too much, right? I will cut that in half. We'll do 20 because 40 games of Poppy was a lot. And so, okay, well, 20. But if you guys want to do that, that tier is open. Again, for me, Zill is still working on the talent games. So far, those are the only two volunteers that are willing to sacrifice their solo queue ratings for, podcast monies. But if anybody else wants to, they'll let you know. But I am available. That tier is open again. Feel free to toss the podcast a donation. It doesn't have to be continuous, just a one time thing. And then if you do that, do let me know who you want me to play. We're running out of season. So that would be helpful. All right. With that, thank you guys for showing up. I appreciate it. Schmack, Chess, Adrian, you guys are great. And good night, everybody. Okay, stick around until those recordings say fully uploaded, and then we're good. And then we
I
can play
gotta
a game
say,
or something. Yeah.
I gotta say, even though I did talk about like pinging so that you won't get recognized in chat, I'm of the contrary opinion towards chat. I used to have it a lot of muted a lot and stuff, but and I mean we can also talk about that on the podcast some other time.
But
But
keep in mind,
I
this
I,
is.
I, I
Hold on one second. This is bonus content. I am still streaming. So do be
ah.
aware that you are being recorded still. So
Okay,
We're on the
that's
record.
fine. That's
okay,
fine. That's
that's
fine.
fine.
But like,
I just didn't want you to be like, yeah, and I hate these listeners and they're terrible. I'm like, no, stop, don't do that. No.
no, that would be me, dude. I
Yeah.
was a listener like 3-4 weeks ago. Only listener now, still listener, obviously. No, but like just like the one thing you guys said where I disagree is like I think it can have a positive impact. I like the way I've been using chat is I have been saying a lot of good job. I've been especially also typing stuff, pinging Baron, but also typing like let's do burn, let's do stuff. Like obviously it can backfire. It can always backfire, but I still I don't know when that happened, but sometime in the last few months I got faith in humanity back, and I think I can positively influence people in chat. Um, I'm guys, you know Sky Williams, the DST
Yeah,
dick
yeah,
sucking theory.
yes,
I'm all
dick
for that.
sucking
Like
theory, right?
I'm taking it all the way because I want to gain that elo, and like I do everything for that elo. I'm gonna write good job. I'm gonna write well played. I'm gonna write sorry my bad for every single thing. They fucked up. They missed 2 Qs. They missed everything. My bad. I'm sorry, guys. My bad. If they're happy, then I don't care. But
Yeah, I mean,
that
fair
also changed
enough.
ever
Like,
since I switched back to support. In mid, I wasn't that chill.
I mean, fair
I
enough.
gotta say.
I used to try to do the same thing. I just have gotten to the point where I can't stand the taste of all the dicks anymore. Right? It's just too much. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's like, okay, I don't
Yeah,
have
no,
to. I don't engage at all. And that's the thing is like I was never
perfectly fine.
particularly toxic. You know what I mean? Like I was generally a positive influence, right? Like the only thing that people would ever get mad at me about is like when we play as a group, as like a community, like I play with people in the Discord, I'd be like, hey, you might have wanted to try this because I think it would have worked out better for you. Like I can't turn off coaching people,
Mm,
and I need to, right? I guess, but I don't know. Like it's hard for me to be like, you just want to play to have fun and not to try to get any better at all,
yeah.
right? Like, all right, cool, but I don't know, man. Like chat, I've been through like I just don't see. There was a time period that I think that you could get good out of it. Like good things would happen, you could talk, and good things would happen, and that would snowball in a positive direction. I have now had people like in the last 40 games I have played, the number one determining factor of win or loss has been the mental of my team. In gold, gold used to be the land of milk and honey. Everybody was
Yeah.
fucking nice there. And
No,
now,
gold was great.
yeah, gold was great.
I
Like,
love gold.
like
That was like
plat was where everybody started getting dickheaded egos and like, I know what I'm talking about. I should be diamond. And I'm like, but gold was like always great, right?
it was
Yeah.
fun. Silver was like a mess. Then you got to gold, and everybody's so happy go lucky.
Yeah.
And then you get the plat, and you're like, I miss that old stuff. Can I don't want to go back down there, but can we bring it up here?
Right, right. And so
Yeah.
like gold is now like the dystopian future of gold. You know what I mean? Like the pictures are watching you and listening to what you're saying, and it's all sad, and people work in factories all day, and it's terrible. Like that's what gold has become. Like everybody's a dick. Every streamer mentality is trickled down all the way through. Like GG, go next shit, and all that. And like I'm stuck there right now because I was playing Poppy for 40 games as support, and so that has donked my win rate a bit. But even still, I could have carried so many of those games if people had any idea what they were doing with a like Poppy's burst is like insane if I put you into the wall. But if you don't, it's ass. Like it's like a bad Leona. You're playing a bad Leona for most of it. But anyway, that hasn't been
Honestly
great
think
for my win rate, but whatever.
honestly think part of the dystopian gold milieu now is like probably like partially due to streamer mentality trickle down, but then also probably because of like addicted toxic silver players that over the course of time have gotten slightly better enough to like get into gold where it's like it's all the silver players who
But
were
okay,
toxic that improved a little
true.
bit.
True, but generally, like the silver players are like, I want to get to gold to get that skin, right? And so then they got to gold, and then it's like, I did it. I'm here,
Yeah.
bitches. I'm validated. I'm good. Now I
Yeah.
can be chill. Like I have no aspirations any higher. I made my goal, right? And then you go back to plat, which is like shiny or silver, and the goal is now diamond, and everybody's a dick about it because realistically, challenger grandmaster is going to be way out of most people's league to ever attain. So they're just satisfied with some form of diamond to be like, I made it to diamond, I'm good, whatever, and then that's it, right? Which is why Diamond 4 is a cesspool again.
It's
Like,
there's a large amount of people like Diamond 4 right now is like because me and a buddy like I'm Diamond 4, he's Diamond 3. It goes from like 1.5% of the player base for Diamond 4 and then that's the top 1.5 and then for Diamond 3 it goes all the way to 0.9, which is quite the jump when you're that high up.
That's
There's that little few little people already up there. There's that many people just sitting in Diamond 4.
yeah,
Like it's
like
bad. Like I
so
might be one of them, but
in the season that I got like on mine, I was at the Diamond 4 was the top 2%. And then Diamond 3 was the top 1/4 of 1%.
Wow.
Like that's the that was
Crazy. Yeah.
my peak is at the time was in the top 1/4 of 1%. Okay. Like not anymore. Like I'm not that good as I was anymore because I haven't put that much time into the game in years. Because I've got this whole like lawyer thing going on and having children and
It's
managing families and moving and all running a podcast. But I mean, realistically speaking, like the the silver players into gold, like generally they mellow after that. But who knows? Maybe like silver has become so toxic and polluted and shitty that it's like overflowing out of the toilet of silver into gold. You know what I mean?
there's just a backup.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
There
I
is
got
backup
different
into gold.
chromas for your skin, by the way.
do what?
Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
that's
so it's
what
not
it is.
just gold
Oh.
anymore. You get your different
Oh, right.
chromas.
So now that we're going all the way up, it's like, oh,
So
I
it's
have to get
like-
plat now.
yeah, it's
Oh, shit. I didn't even think of that. Well, all right. I guess I'll see you guys later. Thank you for podcasting. I'm going to get on the game. Let's see if we can play a game or something. Just get a
I'll
game in.
once
That
again,
sounds
as
fun.
always, head to bed.
Yeah, no,
Same.
see,
Was
dude.
fun.
It's
And,
like
thanks
5
guys for
a.m. or
starting
some
it
shit right now, so
so fairly early. Sorry that I missed the first message. I was like still in the game and I heard a sound. I looked into the chat, but I didn't see anything. I didn't scroll up to see the private message. But yeah, that worked out.
Man,
Okay.
I will catch you later. Have a good night, buddy.
Yeah. Good night. Bye bye. Have fun.
All right, stream is dead, guys.